Well, hello everybody. You caught me in moving my dog, but it is Kara from 9 Lives Paranormal, and I am here with our next installment of Haunted or Hype. Plus, I got some good updates for you. So let's start with the first update. The first update is that if you saw one of our first broadcasts of Haunted or Hype that talked about Alan Wade, the serial killer who buried the people in his yard in a grave. And I had these rings with these sigils on it, right? And I didn't know where they were from, or excuse me, what the sigils meant. So I put out an open call for anyone who knew what those sigils were and what that writing was to please let me know. Well, my friend, Sarah Blake, she knew it was Thebian. And I was like, oh my God. So I met with her and she helped me translate it. But then, as luck would have it, as we were doing our investigation at the convent down in Deptford, which you really should look at the video of the evidence that Pride Paranormal put on their YouTube channel, because it is phenomenal. It is so phenomenal that we're actually going back this Saturday and we're going to be doing a live unboxing of a haunted object plus seance. So really tune in for that. So my friend Ken from Pride Paranormal posted his evidence, and he happens to be an expert in esoteric language. So he and I and Sarah put our heads together and we deciphered those rings. So forgive me as I bring it up, but let me tell you what it said. So its literal translation was Ieg Primin. Is that right? Did I say that right? I think I did. Ieg Primin pen. And what that translates into is, in Thebian, I am the seeker at the threshold of unseen knowledge, standing at the crossroads. I feel the primal feminine mystery stirring within me. It calls me inward, to intuition, to memory, to night. I accept the power of creation through word and will. With this pen, I write my truth into the weave of fate. Pretty deep. So hopefully that means that he's getting his life on track, and that's what he wants to do, and he is the creator of his own future. So that's how I interpret it. I don't know how you interpret it. Let me know. So moving on to our next order of business. Our next order of business is the story of Ezekiel Williams. Now, Ezekiel Williams is no joke. And I've owned Ezekiel now for a couple of years. So let's get right to it. Ezekiel is a haunted portrait that I found on Marketplace. Now, I found it on the 4th of July. Now, let me show you with a slideshow, because I'm all about it. I'm all about showing it to you. And he's so big, I couldn't bring him in front of the screen, and he's having a play date at my friend's. So we're getting into that next. So this is Ezekiel, right? And I found him on Marketplace, right? And I loved him, and I knew he was haunted just looking at him. I mean, just look at him. I mean, how can he not be, right? Right. So as you can see, here's the advertisement for him where I query about him. And he tells me that he got it out of an old mansion in Alabama, and the child's name was Ezekiel Williams, and that he got it about a year ago. So I look him up, because that's how I am. I look him up, and there's Ezekiel. He's real, and there is his grave in Alabama, the whole bit. Although this one, I think it says he died as an old man, but doesn't mean that it has to be had to be a dead child, right? We just know that by looking at him. I'm going to go back to this picture, right? We go back to him. We know he's a child. We know that he's of some sort of wealth because look at that frame that he's in. Plus, look at the way he's dressed. He's not, only people of wealth would probably have a picture of this in their house, right? So, moving on. So I decide that I'm going to pick him up, right? So I go and get him. Here he is again, okay? And he asks me if it did anything. And I was like, well, and I said, I just sat down, but, it didn't, the EMF didn't pick up any attachment, blah, 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 but the shelf in my basement fell. So I heard a loud thing, and here it is. Here's the shelf in my basement. It fell in my laundry room. Everything fell over the place. Sorry, I didn't mean to go out of frame. That's me. That's my foot. And there I am trying to clean everything up. So what happens next? Well, what happens next is that my yard gets infested with snakes, right? So you could say, okay, so you got infested with snakes. It's summer, it's hot, they come out, they're looking for something to drink, yada, yada, yada. Great. But what happens next is even more chilling. So here we are. I hung him in my garage because he was kind of mischievous and he was knocking things down and smelled like a barn. So I said, let me put him in my garage until I know he's safe. So there he is hanging out in my hanging out in my garage, right? And you can see my garage, clear wall. And then as I pan around, there's my garage door. And you can see, hopefully, flies that have collected all over the windowsills of my garage. Now, I never had this problem before. I don't have it anymore. I haven't had it since. So, don't know how that happened. I can only speculate that Ezekiel was not happy, because this is only one of a couple of instances where flies have collected. So yeah, so there he is. So anyway, so what happens next? Right? So I figure there's only one more thing I can do. Get rid of him. So I post him on Etsy. And I posted him on Etsy with everything that has happened, including a link to the video of the flies collecting. So everybody who was interested in him knew what they were getting into. And I had a very high retaining price on him, not so much because I wanted that money, but because I wanted to make sure that the people who were interested in him really meant business. And I had every intention of letting him go for cheap, just as long as I knew that he had a good home, right? Because I really don't like to sell haunted objects. I don't. I think it's akin to buying and selling a soul, so I don't do it. So I would settle just for somebody paying for my gas if I had to travel, and that would be that. So anyway, this person contacts me on Etsy, right? And they tell me their name and they're in love with him, and if there's anything more that they should be aware of. She wanted to contact me quickly. She emailed me, she texted me multiple times about it. And he thinks he's so beautiful, and she wants him in her home, and she has spirits in her home, and she knows how to care of them, and they're also kind. And so she wants to negotiate the price. And this is where I tell her that I'm not going to charge her anything. I just need the retainer for my gas because I have to travel almost all the way down to South Jersey. So, sorry, I repeated one. Sorry. Anyway, moving on. Here's where we talk about going halfway. And then the day came, and here we are. She woke up in a panic attack. She couldn't keep him anymore because she thinks, what if he does something to her mother? She couldn't do it. Please, she needs to know if this is going to be a problem. Now, she texted me this. You could see at 10:20, that's when I took a picture of it. However, these were coming to me fast and furious in the middle of the night. around 2 o'clock in the morning, actually. And that's when I woke up and I saw it. So then the next one says, oops, not much, right? So please cancel. I'm having so much anxiety over this. If anything happened to my mom, I wouldn't forgive myself. I need to cancel. I should have thought this through. Yes, you should have thought it through, especially when I'm telling you flies are in the house because of it. Yes, you should have. But this is not about that. Keep half the money. I need to cancel this, please. There wasn't going to be any money anyway. It was half the money for me going down there and getting gas because, again, like I said, I had to go close to like Atlantic City. And then she says, maybe I was meant to contact you to stop from selling him and he found his home. Well, that was true until I met my friend John at the Parlour in Keyport. Now, John has a place in Keyport that has haunted objects, and he is the caretaker of these haunted objects. And when I went to go visit him, he has an entire wall of Victorian portraits. I was thrilled. And so I brought Ezekiel down there, and he is having a play date down there. Now, why am I telling you this? Because on the 16th, I will be there at 8 o'clock p.m., and we're going to do a live investigation, and we're going to get the update on Ezekiel. Now, I know already that he has caused a little bit of mischief because somebody made a snide comment about him. And John told me that the person who made the snide comment was a patron to his establishment. And after they made the snide comment, her pocketbook broke. The metal clasp or something, a metal piece popped off her pocketbook, and it's now broken, which is par for the course for Ezekiel. That's what he does. He knocks things over, he knocks things off, he breaks things. You know, I have brought him out to Paracons and talked about him. And the one that I did go to, the people in the vendor next to me, they had a tent. Their tent fell down. And then the second Paracon I brought him to, the flies did accumulate again in the room that I was speaking on. Yeah. So he does have a history that precedes him. So, you know, she should have known better, but neither here nor there. So what do you think, guys? My friend Ezekiel, who's now down at the Parlour in Keyport, is he haunted or is it hype? Will you tune in on the 16th? With me so we could do an accurate investigation and see if he likes it there, and then maybe take a vote of should he stay there or should I bring him home with me? You let me know. See you next time.